Hello. Today we will discuss two questions on Field Marshal Cariappa. The first question will be on the Indian Army, and second one is on keeping the Indian Army apolitical. Question one: Cariappa strongly resisted a gradualist approach to Indianization of the officer cadre. In what way did his insistence on 100% Indianization shape the ethos and structure of the post-independence Indian Army? Field Marshal K.M. Cariappa's strong opposition to the gradualist approach to Indianization of the officer cadre and his unwavering demand for 100% Indianization was one of his most defining contributions to the Indian Army. His stand profoundly shaped both the ethos and the organizational structure of the post independence Indian Army. We will be discussing this question in four parts: the context of Indianization, impact on the ethos and values of Indian Army, impact on the structure and the organization, and legacy. Coming on to the context of the Indianization. At the time of independence, the Indian Army had a top heavy structure dominated by the British officers. The British plan was to allow Indians only 50% of the representation in the officers' rank over a 15 to 20 years period, and even recommended eliminating the Viceroy's commissioned officers or the precursors of the JCOs. Cariappa rejected this vision, entirely advocating that complete Indianization in the short time is possible, ideally within the 10th years, retention and upliftment of the Viceroy Commission officers, that is the JCOs, and equal opportunities for the Indian officers in higher training and command roles. Now, impact on the ethos and the values of the Indian Army. First was in the promotion of a truly national identity. Cariappa's insistence led to the rapid transition of army from a colonial force to a national institution, composed and commanded by Indians of diverse regional, religious, and caste backgrounds. The result was the army became a symbol of national unity. Then was the merit-based and apolitical ethos. Cariappa emphasized meritocracy, discipline, and integrity. He believed in officer and gentleman values and inculcated this through the training reforms and personal example. The result was the army developed a strong professional and apolitical culture free from the influence of communal and political agendas. Then was the empowerment of JCOs and NCOs. Cariappa resisted the British plan to abolish the Viceroy's commissioned officers cadre and instead elevated their status, creating a robust junior leadership bloc backbone, which remains critical to the Indian Army even today. The result was better morale and a uniquely strong officer soldier relationship. The impact on structure and organization. Creation of All India and All Class units. Cariappa was instrumental in raising regiments like the Brigade of Guards and the Parachute Regiment, open to all castes and communities, breaking the colonial era of martial race theory. The result was a more inclusive pan India army structure. Then focus on the indigenous institutions. His advocacy led to the establishment and expansion of the Indian military training institutions such as the National Defence Academy (NDA), Defense Services Staff College at Wellington, and NCC. So this resulted in the self-sufficiency in training and leadership development. Then was a smooth transition in command hierarchy. Cariappa ensured that the Indian officers were groomed for leadership by attending international staff colleges and taking over senior positions quickly. He was the first Indian C-in-C appointed in 1949, setting a precedent for Indian leadership at the top. Cariappa's push for Indianization wasn't just a personal reform, it redefined the soul of the Indian Army. His vision created an army that was inclusive and secular, led by Indians for Indians with pride and professionalism, grounded in national service rather than imperial loyalty. His firm stance helped prevent what they could have been a fractured and a colonial hangover of the force instead of transforming it into one of the most respected professional armies. The second question, Cariappa strongly resisted politicization of the armed forces. Elaborate. Field Marshal Cariappa firmly believed that the armed forces must remain apolitical and serve the nation, not political parties and ideologies. His convictions were tested in several trying circumstances, and he stood his ground each time, setting a precedent for the generations of military leaders. So, we'll be discussing this question in four parts: post independence turbulence, Kashmir War, as the commander in chief, and his famous quote. After independence, the newly formed Indian Union was going through upheaval. Partition violence, integration of the princely states, widespread communal tension. During this period, there were strong political undercurrents and attempts to use military for political objectives. Example in 1947-48, when riots broke out in the East Punjab and Bengal during the partition, some leaders pushed for select deployment of army based on community identities. Cariappa, then the Eastern Army commander, firmly resisted these pressures. He refused to allow the army to be seen as favoring any religion or community and ordered strict neutrality in operations. During the First Indo-Pak War over Kashmir, the Indian Army was tasked with defending the princely state. There were political interferences and debates about the military discussions, including whether to continue advancing and reclaiming certain areas. Cariappa's stand was that military operations should be based on the strategic and tactical needs, not political optics. He cautioned against civilian interference in the operational matter, saying, the soldier's duty is to defend and not be dragged into political debate. He was deeply disappointed when Indian government declared a ceasefire while army had the upper hand. He believed political decisions prematurely halted what could have been a decisive military outcome. When Cariappa became the first Indian commander in chief of the army in 1949, he faced several attempts by political identities to influence postings, promotions, and procurement decisions. His institutionalized meritocracy and fiercely protected the army from external meddling. He even refused to take phone calls from political leaders regarding individual cases of promotions or posting, establishing that the military must remain a professional autonomous force. One of his famous quote his belief was keep the army out of the politics and politics out of the army. This became a cornerstone for philosophy of India's military leadership. Cariappa's stance ensured that the Indian army remained loyal to the constitution, not to the regime or the leaders. His legacy helped India avoid the fate of most post-colonial nations where the armies were politicized, leading to coups and instability. Even today, Indian military officers are taught about Cariappa's commitment to a political professionalism, reinforcing the idea that democracy thrives when the soldier stays loyal to the nation, not its politics. With this, we have come to the end of this part also. Thank you.